to anybody who is here. We are the Minnesota Spirit Hunters, and we're here to just communicate.
Hello, everyone. This is Brandon from Minnesota Spirit Hunters here, and this is Kara, and we have John Yost back with us again. So how's everything been with you?
I am, first of all, I'd just like to thank you both for hosting again tonight, and I really appreciate you and the show and all of your listeners. Thank you. Great. I feel really, really good tonight.
Awesome. So you had a lot going on since the last time we talked to you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. There's a lot that's happened with the film, and there's a lot that's happened with me personally. And I don't even really know where to start. When last we spoke, the film hadn't even come out yet. It was going to be launched in a month or so, or a couple months, and it has been a mixed bag. I have to tell you. You know, you've seen the film, so you know it's a little different than other documentaries, right? It's kind of up close and personal. I like to say it's immersive. You know, a lot of films like this are made by really, really smart people, and they're chock full of information, but they're kind of facts and figures, and there's really no emotion to it.
Yep.
In this film, as you guys know, it is an emotional film, and it kind of draws you in to it because, you know, when you look at the screen, you know, people get confused. It's not my story. It's the story of all these people, and they see on the screen, and maybe this happened to you. You look up there and you go, you know, that reminds me of my uncle. That's my aunt. Holy hell, that's me. You know what I mean? And you start to realize that this is happening around the world to perfectly normal people living normal lives. That something absolutely freaking incredible has happened to, and so it affects people. Now, you have a couple different, you know, I'm sure in your business too, there are all these different factions. You know, people kind of own this street corner, which is so silly because nobody owns any street corner really. If anything, the phenomena owns us, right? I mean, you know, because we're all chasing it, right? We're all chasing it, and so you have these nuts and bolts kind of guys who are like, it has to be made of metal and it has to happen this way and they have to look this way. And so they get upset at me because they say, oh, you're Mr. Answers. You've got answers. And I said, no. I said, you totally missed the meaning of the whole film. I'm a guy looking for answers. And so if there are people out there, I made this film to be a catharsis for myself, to heal myself. And my hope is that it helps other people. There are a lot of people who have had experiences who are too afraid to talk about it, who don't want to talk about it, who think, people will make fun of me or whatever. And I thought, you know what? If those folks can sit in the safety of their own living room and watch on their screen and see me ask the difficult questions or make a fool out of myself or whatever, maybe it can help somebody else, right? So I've had that sort of negative response by the nuts and bolts people. But there's this other whole world of people who said, oh my God, nobody ever said it like that to me. Nobody ever started the conversation that way. And they really have resonated. And in fact, I think it's almost a year since we've talked. And the film now is getting ready to be launched internationally. It's all throughout North America now, but complete overseas. In fact, I think it's in April. There's this huge KGRA event that's going to happen. It's going to be all around the globe. They'll be promoting it for about 8 weeks and things like that. I'm starting to get invited to different places. Like, for example, I'm going to Roswell, New Mexico in March for the UFO Expo, and they've asked me to speak, and the film's being featured there because there's this demand by people who say, look, I really want to get at this. I don't want to go and see old footage and hear Walter Cronkite in the background say back in 1950, whatever. That I want to know this is happening today. It happened to me last Wednesday or whatever, They want to know what's going on today. And so so that's kind of what's happening with film. Also, I have, because of that film, there have been a lot of people who have approached me who have seen it and been affected by it and have said, listen, I've never been able to talk to anybody about it. Can I talk to you? And I'm going to tell you something. I've spent a lot of long evenings speaking to people from around the country who called me or reached out to me in an email and needed some help. And I have to tell you, I never turned anybody away. Talked to everybody, helped everybody I could. And then even another stage is that, you've seen the film, so you know who Debs Shakti is. She's that young lady who helped me regress and whatever. And I maybe I didn't say it in the last time, but I really consider her a guardian angel. I mean, she saved me. I'd lived with that pain and that fear and that craziness, denial and everything else for, over 45 years. You guys are young. I'm an old man. And it poisoned everything about my life, poisoned my relationships and everything. And it really affected me. And so I have nothing but, applause to give that young lady. Anyway, so what happened is that a lot of people would reach out to me and say, hey, do you think you could introduce me to her? Because they needed help. And so I've been able to do that. And I felt really, really good about that because then people would come back to me and say, oh my God, John, she is so wonderful. This Deb Shakti is so wonderful and she's helped me so much. And I'll tell you, if you ever get a chance to meet her or talk to her, she is really just a guardian angel, a super, super lady. And then something else has happened. The situation is that, when we talked last time, I said, things surround this phenomena. People who report these things end up reporting, somehow acquiring some sort of power or some sort of artistic ability or some sort of musical talent or some sort of clairvoyance or healing or whatever. And I'm a nobody. I get nothing. I'm a dud. They threw me back. I guess I was a small trout. But what's happened though is this, and this is the hardest thing for me to tell you, is that I made the film to heal myself, and I told you last time it was an accident. I wasn't thinking I'm going to make this film. I'm in the business. I make commercials, I make TV shows, I do whatever. And then I had that crazy situation happen to me in the desert, which just made my life, it shook my bookcase, if you will. And everything I thought I was in control of, I was not in control of. And so I was so paralyzed. I had such terrible fear of big sky and big water, and it was really affecting me. Smarter people would have gone to a psychiatrist or something like this, right? But I'm an arrogant, pig-headed Irish guy, and so what I said is, I'm going to do this myself. And so what I did was, I see you. Birds of a feather, brother. I can feel you. I feel you. I got a Jameson on the side after the show. So I told you I wasn't lying. Anyway, so I was going to fix it myself. And, so I figured that other people, much more smarter than I was and better than I was, had these experiences, and they figured out ways to live with it. And then that led me to, talking to people about it, finding out about their experiences. And then that led me to recording some of those folks. And then that led me to finally telling people a little bit about me. And then that led me to this place in this film where I couldn't remember a piece of it. I could remember everything, but I couldn't remember a piece of it. And then, with Debs, we did the regression, and I have to tell you this silly little story. She I'm about 6'3" and 270 pounds. I'm not a small person, and she's a tiny little elf person. She's a little tiny pixie person. And so I'm not a misogynist at all. I was raised with 5 women. I have total respect for women, but it's like I'm looking down at this little person and I'm going, come on, little lady, you're not gonna you're gonna hypnotize me, that sort of thing. And she kind of looked up at me and got this little impish grin and said, well, we'll see. And then she said, look, I'm not gonna do anything, right? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna teach you how to relax. And you're gonna relax enough to walk down this hallway that you built, John, and open up that door that you locked, and open up that filing cabinet that you sealed. And all you're going to do is look in there and report what you see. That's it. And so when it finally came time for it, I thought, you know what, this is too damn important. I need to film this. This is when the film became a film. And I said, I got to film this thing. And she didn't want to. She was a little ticked off at me. She said, look, this isn't a carnival. We're not playing some games here. This is serious business. And then I explained to her why I needed it. I said, not only for me, I got to be able to rewind this in my mind. I got to be able to see myself. And then I want to share it to help people. And so we had to figure out some crazy situation. I mean, these were remote cameras. Nobody could be in the room. People had to leave the building. And also in the film, you see, I don't know, what would you say, 10, 12 minutes of that particular session? Yeah. It was 6.5 hours. Man, I'm going to tell you something. Oh my God, I was exhausted at the end of it. So a lot of stuff came out in that was not in the film, that will be, and we'll talk about, what the future holds. But a lot of stuff came out. And at the end, I couldn't watch it for a while. It took me like a week or so to be able to watch, and then I could only watch a few minutes of it. And if you notice, and you could really see if you watch it all the way through, is that you see this guy sitting on his couch who, it's not him. It's this 7-year-old kid who is in a lot of trouble. It's not a 45-year-old guy or 50-year-old guy dealing with something. It's a 7-year-old kid who never dealt with something. And that, it was so heartbreaking for me to watch. I still get a little upset. I'm sorry. So that was the germ of the film, because I sincerely know how difficult that is. And I wanted people to be able to, if they laughed at me, okay. If they, I'm not trying to convince anybody, if you want to abuse me, I got broad shoulders, whatever, it doesn't matter. But for the people who needed it, I wanted them to have access to it, right? So I tell you all that blah, blah, to tell you this. So I finished the film, right? And the film is done, and I feel a sense of relief, right? I think, this was important, and it's sure, that's not me. I know that.
It's not turning off. Okay, there we go.
It's okay. It's okay. That's okay. Listen, you're the boss. Like I said, if I had done that, that would have been inexcusable, but you guys are in charge. So that's cool. So anyway, what I was saying is that, I thought, okay, well, this has changed me fundamentally. I think in the end of the film, you remember, I say, what is it about these bright, shiny lights in the sky that make you want to be a better person? How does this affect it? It really has changed me fundamentally as an individual. And I know that sounds woo-woo, but it's really true. And it has the power to do that to other people who have never considered this piece of our reality. And so I thought, okay, well, that happened when I was a boy. And one of the things that I found out in that regression was the reason I was fighting with that entity was I realized this was not the first time. He had taken me several times before, and I was not going to go this time. I was going to kick his ass. So that's why this little 7-year-old boy is, laying hands on this side. But I thought to myself, okay, whatever that was, that happened then. And I'm going to deal with this, and this is change. So I've said my piece, and God bless you, and that's it, right? But then the film comes out, and things start to happen again. I'll give you a couple things. I work at the same office for the last 13 years, and it takes me 1 hour and 12 minutes, 1 hour and 15 minutes to get there one way. Okay, it's a long drive. Yeah. It doesn't take me 3 hours. It doesn't take me 3 hours. Getting calls, John, where are you? What are you talking about? Where are you? And I'm looking around. I have no idea where I am. I'm in somewhere. I don't know how I got there. I don't know what's going on. So I'm having these chunks of missing time now. I don't live in a very nice neighborhood. And so I have, locks on the doors and alarms, and I'm waking up in the middle of a yard at 3 o'clock in the morning, and The doors are all locked and the alarms are on, and I'm outside in some shorts.
Have you thought about setting up cameras at all?
Well, what I'm saying is that this stuff happened unexpectedly, right?
Yeah.
So now with this stuff happening, now there's documentation and things that are happening. So,
Okay.
and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, there's some things that blend into your world. You know, we were talking about, you know, I'd like to get into what you thought about the film and stuff, but I'd like to talk about the crossovers. And there's some stuff that blends into Bigfoot. There's some stuff that all this other stuff is starting to blend in. And I am realizing some things as I move forward in this, that this door has been cracked open. And when it has, some light has spilled out into the hallway, and somebody in the hallway has noticed, if you will. So yes, and this maybe will help you understand where my thoughts are going. So the first film is called Alien Abduction Answers. And the idea behind the film was to take people from ignorance, and I don't mean anything mean by that. I mean like things that people don't know. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Ignorance, and what happens when you're ignorant, you usually fall into fear. You know, think about this. You walk into a dark room, right? And you see this crazy thing on the side, and you turn on your light, and you say, oh, son of a gun, that's my jacket over a chair. There's not a person there. So now you're not ignorant anymore. You have the facts, and so you have an understanding of what's going on, right? Okay, so the first film is supposed to take people from fear, this ignorance which leads to fear, to some sense of understanding. Okay, I mean, nobody understands everything. Nobody has all the information, but if you start to understand it a little bit, you can get your arms around it a little bit, you know, and you can start to make decisions. The second film that I'm now in the middle of planning and raising money for is called Alien Abduction Awakening. And the idea is that now that you have the information, it starts to allow you to make decisions. You have options, and you're awakening to that reality. Before, if you didn't know that I was standing around the corner with a pie, right, and you walked out, you get hit right in the face with a pie. But if you knew that I had a pie, if you had the information, you could say, that jerk, I'm not walking around there. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to come up behind him, whatever, right? Okay. So you could make decisions, but you have to be aware to make decisions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's a third film in my mind right now called Alien Abduction Ascension. Now, I know that sounds really woo-woo, but this is what I mean. Look, I don't care who you are. You guys have seen my film. We're not Hollywood stars. We're normal cats who live and work and meet and pay taxes and pay $5 a gallon for diesel. So the idea is this, that I want my films to speak to everybody. So I don't care who you are. You'd be black, white, Asian. You can be smart. You can not be that smart. It doesn't matter. I want to speak to your heart. And so the idea of ascension is this, is that all of us, and I don't care where you are on the planet, we all did the same thing. Watch. We were all born, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all crawled. We all toddled. We all fell and bumped our head. We all eventually walked, and we all eventually been able to run. Okay. So you guys already live with this paradigm that there's something other, right? So you're beyond that sort of ignorance. You're beyond that sort of fear. And you've decided to engage with this. You've decided to go at it head on. Now, you're still surprised by some things, but you're engaged in this. Okay. And not only that, you've gone to the ascension part, which means not only do you not fear it anymore for being unknown. You've made decisions and engaged, but now what you're doing is every day of your life, you're living with the reality of that. And now, because you're awake, you see things that you never saw before when you were back here in the beginning, right? You start to notice it. And when people tell you about things, you look at each other and go, I know exactly what that's about, my man. Sit down, let's have a coffee and let's talk about it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
yeah.
this is this ascension. So what we have right now is a world of people who are ignorant and fearful, and then some who are starting to get that understanding, but really don't know that they have an opportunity to make decisions. You know, I've used this analogy before. You know, just suppose the three of us were in a truck and we're going along a road, and all of a sudden there's this flash flood. Now, the three of us are smart enough and we've watched enough news to know you could die in a flash flood, right?
Mhm.
So you want to get the heck out of it. So that is scary because it happened right away. We had no notice and we were ignorant of it, so we were fearful. Okay. But let's suppose that Kara says, hey, listen, I know that there's a possibility of flash floods up here, but my four-wheel drive, we can get through that. I know that we can ford this. It's no problem. Okay, well, we can make that decision. Or maybe Brandon says, hey, listen, if that doesn't work, I've got a kayak attached to the top. We can ford this, no problem. Or I might say, hey, listen, I got a map and I know there's a road around this. Okay, we have opportunities to make decisions about it. Right now, we have people who are ignorant, and because of fear, they go, don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me. And what happens
I hear
is
that so much.
these are people, though, this is the sad part. And this is why what you guys are doing is real ministry, really, if you think about it. These are people who are walking around that corner and getting the pie in their face and not understanding why. They're getting caught in that flood and they're getting washed away, or their lives are being ruined, or they can't sleep, or they're afraid of everything because they don't understand what's going on. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to wake up people and just say, look, we are not the top of the food chain. There are things that are other than us. We have to, and the real reason, and these are things that I've come to understand since the three of us have talked, is the real problem with our species, humans, is we have these terrible egos. See, every morning you guys wake up, you press a button, and you get coffee. You press a couple buttons and you check your email. You get into your air conditioned or heated truck. You go to your air conditioned or heated job. You do it because you control almost everything about your life. And this is the way your mind works, that you're in control of your life. But the truth is, there's an entire universe all around us that has nothing to do with you, could care what your opinion is, and is moving just really, really fast, and you might not know it, or really, really slow. People don't understand that we are a speck on a speck on a speck in the middle of a vast, empty universe in the backwater of a middle-sized galaxy, and we're one of the youngest stars in that galaxy. You know, we've been around for 4.5 billion years, they say. Okay, galaxy's 13.5 billion. Now take a look at this. 200 years ago, we had horses and carts and things. Okay, so in 200 years, we went from there to Elon Musk sending people to Mars. Okay, what if we had 10 billion years? Where would we be? Okay, but we constantly think we're in charge. And when we do, what we do is we close our eyes and we walk around the corner. And so when something hits us right in the face, we go, how the heck could that happen? One of the funniest things and most tragic things that I've ever heard is, and maybe you guys have seen this on the news, is somebody will be a victim of crime, right? They got robbed or they got hurt or something like this. And they say the same thing over and over again. I never thought it happened to me. You know, that's something I see on TV. That's something I see in the movie. That couldn't happen to me, right? And what that is that's us having our ego in the way of what's reality. People talk about what we say as supernatural. It's extremely natural. What we have done is said, listen, I will take the brownie with the crust. That's the one I want. Well, yeah, but there's an entire pan of brownies. I don't see those. I only see the one with the crust because that's the one I like. That's the one I feel comfortable with, right? There's a world out there. Anyway, so blah, I've been talking a lot. I
You're okay.
apologize.
No, I agree. It's like people, even in our field, it's people want to be in control. And when they feel like they're not in control, they're scared.
Sure.
Like
I think that's one of the biggest things that man has proven over and over again is anything that is unknown, immediately they fear it.
Sure.
Or try to talk themselves into believing it's not real.
Sure. It's the only way they can move forward. And then you've had others who have said, look, being brave is not someone without fear. Someone with courage is afraid and still does it, right?
Yep.
So they understand the risk, but they still do it. So think about it. If there wasn't courage, there would never have been flight. There would have never been, submarines. There would have never been anything, But we had to take a chance and move forward. And so this is, it's everywhere. This is the point. It's everywhere. We have made ourselves blind to it. I was talking to an interviewer the other day about this, and I said, think of it this way. Let's say Brandon and I are soldiers, okay? And we're standing up on top of this hill. It's about midnight. And we have night vision glasses, so we snap them on, and we take a look down the hill, and we see some bad guys coming up the hill, right? They could be good guys, they could be bad guys, but in our case, they're bad guys. Look down there, and I take my glasses off, and I go, whoo. That was a close one. Glad they're gone. And Brandon looks at me like, you have 3 heads, man. Okay, so the truth is, I'm about to have a very bad evening, and Brandon is going to have a better, he's going to have more success. Let's just put it that way, right? Okay, and so this is where we are as a people. A lot of people, think about it, either they have the glasses on and they don't like what they see, or they never put the glasses on. I had somebody arguing with me about, they were true blue atheists. And what I mean by atheists is they didn't believe in anything. And I said, really? And they said, I don't believe in anything I can't see. I said, well, when's the last time you tasted air? They went, what? And then I said, okay, you don't believe in anything you can see. I said, how about this? Why don't you stand in front of an x-ray machine for 2 weeks? I mean, you can't see those x-rays. I'm sure there's nothing there that would cook you. And they said, oh, you're being stupid. I said, no, you are being stupid and defensive and arrogant and egotistical because you think that you are in control, my brother. And unfortunately, you're not. There's nothing I can do because unless you make a decision to say, okay, look, my eyes can only see this much of the spectrum of light. Don't believe that, Mr. Atheist? Why do we have infrared glasses? Why do we have infrared? Why? Why do we have FLIR? And guess what? That's not supernatural. That's science.
Yep.
Okay. So we can only see this much. So your eyes are filters that can only take in so much. I mean, think about an eagle or a hawk. Hawk can see, several miles down. Okay, well, is that hawk supernatural? No, it's very, very natural. It just has a better filter. Your ears can only hear this much of the whole spectrum. Don't believe me? Take a look at dogs. You can hear things that you can't hear. Now, is that supernatural, or is that just because our ears are not equipped for that? A couple hundred years ago, people used to say, well, you know what? Disease is caused by bad spirits. Okay, well, I'm not saying they don't have anything to do with it, right? But that was pretty superficial and superstitious. Then along comes the microscope. And people see that there are viruses and bacteria and all this. Okay, so here's the question of the day. Did the bacteria and the viruses and all that other stuff, did that spontaneously create itself the moment that a microscope was there? Or was it always there? And we just eventually built the tech. We had to, number one, realize there was something there. Then we had to focus our attention on it. Then we had to build something that could help our filters see it more clearly. That's all there is to it. And so that's what we're doing with telescopes around the world, radio telescopes. And that's what we're doing with all of the gear that you guys probably use. And so people who kind of poo-poo this, I think it's just blissful ignorance. I don't know. I'm an old guy. They used to say ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people practice that. Ignorance is bliss
More
until they walk around that corner and they get the pie in the face. And then they're, oh man, I don't know. Guess what? The reason I know that so well, because that was me. That was me. And I had an earth-changing, paradigm-shifting experience that literally shook my whole life. And it has never been the same. Never been the same.
We have a message on here for you.
Yes? Oh, sweet lady. Oh my gosh, what a nice person. Oh, God bless you, Susan. God bless you.
I think that's Marcus.
Marcus, we miss you, buddy.
And this is a comment about the glasses.
I called not putting them on. Do you want me to take them off? These are my
No, not yours.
my old Clark Kent glasses.
He means the glasses you were talking about.
I know.
Okay.
Put them on, buddy. Put them on.
He's just joking.
Well, over the summer, me and my son, we actually kind of had an experience. We were in the pool, swimming around and whatnot with a couple of friends, and me and my son kind of both seen it at the same time. And there was just like bright light, kind of like a star, and it was moving, and then it would all of a sudden stop.
Yes.
And then it would start moving again, and then all of a sudden stop, and no noise of a helicopter or anything like that.
No.
It all of a sudden just poof, gone. It was like, that was strange.
All I remember is him running in saying, "Guess what we saw?"
Sure. And this stuff is happening more and more and more. And I'll tell you, last time we were all together, we were talking about how the mindset of people has changed. And I'd like to push in on that a little bit. When, a lot of people in the ufology world and the abduction world, and I'm not part of any of that. Nobody, I am literally a nobody. The fact that you want to talk to me is, giving me a fat head, because I am a zero. I am an absolute zero. But they had, somebody asked me about this, they had this, quote unquote disclosure, right? So the government has these hearings and they put out these documents and all this other stuff. And I was thinking about this, and people were upset about it. First of all, people said, well, they're lying, or it's taken so long, or they didn't tell me enough, and I want this disclosure, and blah, 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 and this is never going to happen. And okay. But I have learned as a filmmaker that, please excuse the phrase, the devil is in the details. And nuance matters, Like, think about this. The word no, N-O, right? Tell me this. No. No. No, no, no. No. Okay, now wait a minute. It was the same word, but all of those meant a little something different. Okay. Yep. So here's what I want to say to you. So this disclosure, or whatever it is, I think is the very first domino in a change that's going to take the world by storm. This is what I mean. There are basically three types of people, or let me put it this way, three types of philosophies when you deal with UFOs and aliens. You got what I call the shoe watchers. These are people who stare at the ground or their calculator or their stocks or their bonds or whatever. And they say, that's a bunch of BS and you guys all wear tinfoil hats and you're stupid and you're morons and whatever. Okay.
The ones
fine.
that keep their blinders on all the time.
Yes, sir. You got it, Brandon. So you got those cats, right? Then you have what I call the pseudo-intellectuals. These are the cats with the tweed jackets and the pads on the elbows and the pipe that they never really put tobacco in. And they sit around the fire and they go, well, mathematically, I'm sure that somewhere out there, but they could never get to us. And what does this really have to do with me? Okay, fine. And then you've got people like me going, holy crap, you'll never believe what just happened to me. Okay, right? You got these three basic philosophies. Now, this is what happens. So this report comes out and you have these hearings and you've got these congressmen and you got these people taking this stuff really seriously. And they're saying, maybe it could be Russia or maybe it could be Chinese or maybe it could even be, okay, fine. But watch what happens. The devil's in the details. Watch what happens to these three groups of people. The first group of people, the shoe watchers, right? They say, what the hell is going on here? What are you guys talking about? What are they looking at? For the first time in their lives, they look up. And watch this. Here's the nuance. They look up with expectation because authorities that they respect, government, scientists, whatever, have told them that there's something unexplained there. Not only that, the cherry on that sundae is that they look up with expectation and a sense almost of duty because, think about this, they respect those authorities. They respect them. They want to be like them. And if other people are seeing it, I am better than everybody else and I'm going to see them too. See what I'm saying? It's all the way they thought. And they begin to see things that they can't explain. And then all of a sudden, now it's their idea. They have been in the know all their lives and they have been waiting for the rest of us to catch up. They're geniuses, right? Okay. And then you have the old piper, right? Sitting around and he says, oh, wait. The government is spending our tax dollars on what? All of a sudden it affects him, see? What are they looking at? And so he looks up, or she looks up for the very first time in their lives. And the same sort of thing happens. Now, the three of us are sitting at the end of the cul-de-sac saying, hey, welcome to the block party. But, right? But this changes. So think about this. If you had to take the entire population of the world, right, you'd have to say maybe the majority of them are shoe watchers. There's a big chunk that are the pipes. And then there's a large portion, but we're still a minority of people who are living with this reality and making decisions based upon it and dealing with it on a daily basis. And this, like I said, is the first domino to start the next domino. And so what happens is, if you've ever seen any of those things that, first domino, second, about the 50th domino, it catches fire and goes like crazy. This is why I'm trying to say that everybody's upset about it. But no, be careful. Watch closely what happens. That's what I think is going to happen. I really do. I really, really do. That's why I think it's so important.
Well.
Yeah. Very.
So you guys actually watched the film.
Yeah.
So let me thank you, and I'm going to shut up because I desperately want to know what you think.
I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
He fell asleep a little bit, not because of the movie, but because he was up at super, super early in the morning.
I was up at 3:30 in the morning snow blowing.
But I kept elbowing him like, you got to watch this part. But no, it was really interesting. I like how they had like an overall message every time that you talk to somebody, that their message, especially with the kids, was you're ruining the planet. That was cool because that's what everybody I know thinks.
Yeah.
If they were to get involved, it would be either to dominate or it would be to try to knock some sense into us.
Yeah.
And that's just how my brain works anyways.
Mhm.
I also liked how it was from pretty much each person's perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Makes it more
Yes, sir.
relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, alien abduction happens one way. And as you saw, I mean, or you knew, but I mean, as the audience sees, this is not, like I said, my story. I might be I don't know, the framework or whatever that we tell, because I'm on this quest to find these answers. But all of these people, some of them have similar stories, but most of them have very, very different stories and experiences. And it's so important to understand that. And it's important for two reasons if you think about it. Remember, I'm that nuance guy, right? So I've had a long time to think about this. Consider this. Not only does everybody have maybe a slightly different perspective, right? But once again, even after we admit that we are not the top of the food chain or in control of everything, we still have this ego that's been with us all of our lives. So we want to put things in boxes, because then if we put it in a box, we can control it, right? So if I can name it, I understand it, right? Okay, but if you say something that I don't understand, well, that's just crazy talk. See? Okay. So there's that aspect to it, but there's also the aspect that you saw in the film. I like to tell these little stories because it helps people understand what I'm, difficult concepts. So, we talk about Elon Musk in the film going to Mars, right? And he lands, and there's one ship, and out of the ship comes somebody from Asia, and somebody from Germany, and somebody from Sweden, and somebody from, Kenya, and all this stuff. And so a little Martian guy comes out and says, "Who's the Earthling?" We all look different. We all sound different. We all have different agendas. And yet that was from one ship, from one planet, with billions and billions of planets out there. And the possibility of sentient life on several of them, or many of them, or thousands of them, or tens of thousands of them. There's absolutely no way for us to say, okay, everybody's getting abducted by small grays. That's it. And that's the answer. No, you once again have advanced in your thinking, but then you fell short. You needed something to, wrap your ego around. To tell you the truth, I don't like to talk about aliens in that term or in those terms. I like to think of things as philosophies or strategies or buckets of understanding. Let me take you through this. Okay, look. Today, I was saying, you guys woke up this morning and pressed a button, got some coffee, got in your car, turned a switch, car come on, this whole thing. Okay. A lot of people, there are some people, but most of our civilization lives separated from nature, right? Because we're insulated. We're inside cars, we're inside buildings, we're inside. Okay. From the beginning of time, women and men have described lights in the forest, shadows of the forest, people of the forest. They've described Bigfoot and elves and the little people and fairies and all. Okay. And what's happened is that more and more people now who are insulated become exposed to that sort of thing, and they go, oh, they're aliens. Okay. Now they're alien to you, sure, but they may not be aliens the way we're thinking about it. Okay. So there's that sort of bucket. There's another bucket. We have to admit, as thinking people, that our government, and I'm not talking about the US, I'm talking about the world, it could be any country. Governments lie because they're really good at it. But don't be upset, because think about this. If you got your arm bit by a shark, you'd be ticked off. But the truth of the matter is the shark, eats, procreates, defecates, and dies. That's it. That's all a shark does. Shark doesn't talk, doesn't play the piano. That's what a shark does. So a shark bit you, he probably did what he's doing. Governments they control where you live, how fast you drive, how much costs are things, and they tax because they need money to control, right? Okay. So they control things. So it's no big shakes that they lie to us about the technology that we do have. So the second bucket has got to be some of this stuff is tech that we don't know about. Oh, humans couldn't make that. Oh, really? When's the last time that you were in Lockheed Martin engineering the next aerodyne? You weren't. I wasn't. There's stuff out there that we don't know and we don't understand, and it's like magic to us. Okay. So the second bucket has got to be tech, either from our personal government or another country's government, that we are seeing or detecting that we're just unfamiliar with. Okay. There's the third bucket. The third bucket is that, you know what? There are nuts and bolts craft coming from other places that are visiting us. And for people who have a hard time understanding that or really believing this, think about it this way. We, people, humans, we have satellites and probes throughout our entire solar system. Today, not sci-fi, not Star Trek, today. And you know what we do? I got a secret for you. We go and we take pictures. We observe. We take measurements. And by God, if we found a sentient being down there, we'd come down with a Black Hawk helicopter, plug it with a hypodermic, and tag its ears so we could track its migration and understand its mating. But see, the reason we can't believe this is happening to us is because our ego says we are the top of the pyramid. See, this could never happen to us because we are, no. So there's some of that that's happening too. The next bucket is this. You know, from the beginning of time, we have looked to the skies or down into the earth, and we have seen angels and demons and gods. And these are entities that have lived. I mean, I don't care what your religion is, whatever, you would all agree that live outside of our realm, that somehow they are transdimensional entities that kind of push into our reality, interact a little bit, and then pop back out without a trace. And you say, what in God's name was that? Think about it this way. This is a real easy way to think about it. Let's suppose Kara and I are beside a pond, okay? And I put my big, ugly Fred Flintstone head into the pond. And I'm literally breaking the plane of existence for fish, okay? Because the fish, they don't fly, they don't walk on the road. Okay, they're in the water. They're looking around like this. All of a sudden, this big mug pierces the water and looks in at them. Holy crap, what is that? They look at me. This fish comes up, looks at me. I don't look like any fish he's ever seen, right? I don't move like any fish he's ever seen. I am crazy looking, and he has an experience and he can't understand, okay? I eventually had to get a breath, so I popped my head out to go talk to Kara. This fish goes, tells all of his friends, you got to see. They come over. I'm gone. He's a crazy man. He's a liar. He's a faker without a trace. And that is a very simple way to think about what's going on there. And then
important Here's a Who story.
Yeah. And then we come into your realm where somehow there are thin places in the world where different planes of existence, different levels of energy kind of cross over and blend and push into each other. And this is where you have, and I'm sure you've experienced both types of entities. You have these recurring entities that almost look like an old recording. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's an energy, it's an energy that's embedded in a matrix right there. And then you also have entities that have a personality and have things to say and all that other stuff. And what this is, for folks who don't understand it, is this. Think of radio, okay? If I told you right now, not you, if I told you right now that I have a box and I can hear people talking from around the world, you're crazy. That's bull crap. You can't hear anybody in Europe. Okay, watch. First of all, there's the box. It's nothing. It's a brick. There's nothing going on. Wait a minute. I have to turn it on. So you have to, number one, recognize that it works and you have to engage with it. So you have to turn it on. So now you turned it on, right? I hear nothing. There's all this white noise. Blah, there's nothing on there. Wait a second. You got to tune it to the frequency. So let's search a little bit. And not every frequency plays on every other frequency. There are tens of thousands of radio waves that are going all over the place. So you have to find that certain one. And by the way, they all exist in the same time space. All of them on top of each other and entangled at the same exact time and space. Now, you can't see them, you can't smell them, you can't taste them. They're here. You need tech to find them. Some people are sensitive. You know, they have fillings in the back of their teeth. They pick up some radio signals. But that's not everybody, right? That's not everybody. So you got psychic people, and people who are very sensitive and empathetic. They can pick that up, but not everybody. Some of us need tech to help our filters pick that up. And then you sort through those, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you hear a voice clear as day. And that unbeliever still, in his unbelief or her unbelief, looks at that box and says, I can't believe those people are this big. Inside that box. No, they're not. No, they're not. This is energy. And what's happened is that I've come to this understanding that literally everything in the universe is energy. And it's either faster or slower. And the slower it is, the more solid it becomes. The higher the vibration, the more spiritual or etheric or invisible or energetic it becomes. So I entreat people to think of themselves like this. Are you a person wearing a soul or wearing a consciousness, or are you a consciousness wearing a person? Let me make this a little easier. Brandon, you have a hat, right? Yep. If you took that hat off and laid it on the desk, would that hat jump up? Would that hat, that's glorious, sir. That is glorious. Would that hat jump up and move around and go out to your truck? No, it wouldn't. Because it's not a hat wearing a man. It's a man wearing a hat. Yep. So when we die, there is still that soul, that consciousness, that energy, that mind that survives this spacesuit that is in this paradigm, this 3D paradigm. So we are souls or spirits or consciousnesses wearing bodies. Yep. And this is how we interact with the world. And I don't care what kind of religion or what kind of philosophy or what kind of spiritual background, every one of them understand that to be a fact. Understand that there is something other than us. And I can prove it to you right now. Watch this silly little example. People think the mind, the consciousness, the soul, you know, the naysayers, they think it's right here in this gray matter, this body. This is it, right? That's all there is to it. Okay, fine. Then please riddle me this, Batman. How is it possible to be in a crowded room and be looking at somebody across the room and they turn around and look right at you because they felt you're looking at them? Or vice versa. Or let's go one step further. Have you ever been thinking about somebody and the phone rings and it's them? Or you call somebody and they say, I was just thinking about you. Now watch this. If that just happened to you and me and Kara, if that just happened to the three of us, okay, that's a coincidence. Hey, little guy. Girl. How you doing? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Little girl? Who's the little girl?
Say hi.
Hi.
Hey, what's your name?
I'm sorry?
She said her full name. It's Jules.
Jules. Is it Julie or is it Jules?
Juliana.
Juliana, that's a beautiful name. Nice to meet you, Juliana.
Sorry, she wouldn't stay in her bedroom.
No. Hey, listen. I have full-grown kids. I understand. Yeah. Anyway, so so if that happened just the three of us, right? Or a couple people, that's a coincidence. It has happened to every single person on the face of the planet. That is not a coincidence. What that is a paradigm changer. What that proves is there is something outside of our 3D skin and bone frame that exists. What I really imagine us being really is this. We're kind of antennas, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And consciousness and spirituality and all this stuff is this kind of fog that's everywhere. It's everywhere, permeates everything. And what we do is we pick up certain signals and we put out certain signals. And that energy back and forth is what either attracts things to us or doesn't attract things to us. People who are sensitive in your business are people who can detect, tune in that frequency and understand and decipher what's happening to them. A bunch of people probably have those same experiences too, but they just reject them, or they have a headache, or they have to take care, It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Sorry, they just won't even.
No.
We'll play. 1 second. What
Of course, Juliana. Tell us something, please.
It's the other child.
Oh, my. Who's the other child?
Take the snack that you gave me. I took one of them and I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Go find your sister. Go. Thank you. So we get for having telling the older one to keep an eye on the littler ones.
No. Hey, listen. Out of the mouths of babes. I love kids, and God bless you and your family. God bless you and your family. Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Sure, of course. So that's kind of the way I'm thinking about this, and as I move forward, I'm understanding something. Now, here's something that's mind blowing. Remember a little earlier, I was saying, in the film, what is it about these shiny lights in the sky that makes me want to think about being a better person, right? So think about this. I don't give a crap if you're an atheist, an agnostic, or very, very religious person. It doesn't matter to me, okay? Think about this. If you're a very, very religious person, no matter what the religion, you believe that there is a creator God that made us all, right? Made everything, okay? Okay, fine. If you're agnostic or you're an atheist, you believe in kind of this Big Bang theory where everything was in one place and exploded and everything is, okay, came out of that. Okay. Well, regardless of what your philosophy is, doesn't matter to me. We're all from the same source. We're all equal. We're all made of the same stardust.
Yep.
Now, wait. Remember, I keep telling you the devil's in the details. All. That just doesn't mean you and me and you. It means all. It means all. It means everything that you encounter on your hunts. It means everything I see in the sky. It means everything in the forest. It means everything. We are all from the same source. And the moment that you realize that, it is life-changing. It really changes the way you look at things. You apologize for your kids, and I know you're in the middle of it, whatever. But when I look at that, I think about my kids when I was little. So I can relate to you. See what I'm saying? So it doesn't upset me, and I'm not, this isn't, they didn't talk to me the whole, none of that shit. But you see what I'm saying? Because we understand each other, because we can relate to each other, because I know that I went through the same thing, that we're equal, completely equal at core. Your lives, your goals, your hopes, your dreams are all equal to mine. That's a strange and weird thing. I went to a Kogo's the other day, 7-Eleven, some little stop and go type thing. And I said to the girl behind the counter, thank you. She looked at me like I had 4 heads. And I said, I guess people don't say. She said, you would be surprised. Hardly anybody says anything like that. They say, give me this, or, if they're ordering cigarettes or whatever, give me this. And I said, could you imagine something? If we just did this little experiment, just a stupid little experiment, it wouldn't cost anybody anything. If everybody said, please, thank you, and excuse me. If people said those 3 things to each other, how many fights would be averted? How many wars? How many misunderstandings? How many, you know what I mean? 3 silly, what is it, 6 words? I don't know. And see, this is what I'm trying to get at. When I talk to you about like the first domino, something's happening. People are desperate for an answer, and people are acting out. There are some crazy people who just think that destructive natures need to be filled and they got to do crazy stuff because that's what it is. But it's really not true, because nobody has ever achieved anything by doing that. Only by building,
Yep.
only by creating, only by making things better for everybody, for mass amounts of people. And so the world is changing in that way. And it doesn't seem that way because the news doesn't tell us that. But I think this is what's going on. This is why a long, long time ago, there used to be a radio program called Coast to Coast. I don't know if you ever heard it. George Norrie hosts it now, but it used to be a guy named Art Bell. And he would have this term called the quickening. What he could see was that paranormal things were happening more and more and more and more and more and more. You might have heard it in a movie called The Highlander. When the quickening was happening, he had to, to kill the bad guy or whatever. But the quickening to him, to this guy, this Art Bell guy, was that things were happening more and more and more and more. And today you can see that even more and more and more and more and more. And what's going to happen is that this is going to have some sort of inertia that pushes us over, that moves that dial, that pushes that last domino, and it's going to catch like wildfire. And people are going to say, what am I doing? Oh my God, what have I been doing? And it's difficult, because as soon as we realize that, things really, really will change, because we're going to be able to have conversations like this. And if you have conversations like this, just like I said earlier about that disclosure, then people who would have never discussed it with you about your business would say, hey, listen, I don't understand this stuff, but I'm willing to learn. Teach me something. And as soon as you can teach them, they're like, oh man, let me tell you about this and this and this and this. There's a guy named Ray Hernandez, right? Really smart guy. PhD, deals with all these PhDs around the world, physicists and everything else. And he talks about how near-death experiences, UFOs, hallucinogenic trips, like ayahuasca and that sort of thing, spirits and talking to the dead and all, it's all part of the same thing. We study it like separate parts, but it's really the same thing. Here's an example to help make it easier to understand what I mean. Okay, you guys have heard about, this little silly story about, you take 3 smartest people on the face of the planet. You throw them in this black room, right? And you say, hey, what's in there? And somebody screams out, oh, it's a spear. Somebody else says, are you crazy? It's a whip. Then the other person says, you're nuts. This is a boulder. What? So they turn on the lights. It's an elephant. So the first person was grabbing the tusk.
Okay.
The second person was grabbing the tail. The third person was leaning up against the side of it. Okay, so he thought he was holding a spear. She thought she was holding a tail. She thought she was holding up a boulder. Okay, if they would have just studied those small pieces, they would have never understood the entirety of what they were dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's an elephant. It's much bigger than all of us. Okay, and so this is the thing. And you guys were teasing with me back and forth. We were talking about, bullies who own this sidewalk, right? Their truth and all this other stuff. It's made me feel empathetic to them, because now I look at them and I say, you know what? You're in that dark room and you have that tusk. Now, you're not lying to me. You're reporting exactly what you're experiencing. And you own this because you're thinking, nobody can talk me out of this. I know what I'm feeling, and I've wrapped my arms around this, and hell, you're not in this room with me. I know what I know. Okay. And I smile and I say, you know what? That makes sense to me now. Now, what happens is it diffuses my frustration. It diffuses any kind of anger or impatience I have with them.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is I try to say, listen, but is that, I'm not saying that's wrong. What I'm saying is that all there is? And when people realize there's more to it, then they go, oh. And then, by the way, then it becomes their idea, which I really, really enjoy.
Well, and then you have people, like my wife's brother. He believes in Bigfoot, but absolutely refuses to believe in spirits.
Yeah.
Which makes absolutely no sense in my brain. How can you believe in a cryptid, but then not believe?
Well, he thinks it's an ape. He thinks it's an ape or some sort of missing link. And the problem, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He's the type of person that'll say anything to get you riled up. So whatever you believe in,
yeah,
pick at it to get a reaction.
Well, what you should do is have some fun with him and just say, "I believe what you say," and watch him pick apart his own argument.
That would be funny.
Yeah. He attacks this idea of the Bigfoot as some sort of ape, when in truth, there is so much evidence that he is so much more than that. How can footsteps walk out into the middle of a field and then nothing? Where'd that cat go? Does Bigfoot have wings? I mean, I didn't know that, but maybe your brother-in-law could tell you that. Maybe he can. I don't know. Why is it that we can't find any real kind of fossil record about them? I mean, we can find fossil record of these, mountain gorillas because they're apes. There's something very, very special and interesting about Bigfoot. I've been doing some research, and some of my research is leading me to believe that Bigfoot is a transport from another place, I honestly believe another planet. I think that, I'm sorry? Chewbacca, yeah. I like a Chewbacca, yeah. But I think that's the reality. And I honestly believe, just like there are different races of us, I think there are different races of those cats too. And there's, people walk into a field and all of a sudden they feel this overwhelming fear. Where's that coming from? And then they hear a growl or a knock in the wood. Wait a minute, what happened to what was the fear? Where'd that come from? That's some sort of psychic, some sort of energetic, almost like a skunk gives off a scent to make you crazy and get you away.
Intuition.
There's something going on there.
In our line of work, they would say it's your spirit guide warning you, or it's your, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that is with you, or an entity that is with you in protection mode, trying to give you a heads up.
Yeah. None of those guys like me. None of them hang out with me. I have no spirit guides.
Have you ever?
I bore them. That's okay. I probably asked too many damn questions.
Mine, so
yeah.
You've never really tried. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, so you liked the film. You felt that it was nice to see all those different aspects. Is there anything that you found difficult to understand? Because I really worked hard to try to tell the story to everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That I didn't understand. Well, you never really understand anything you haven't been through yourself. So the entire aspect of it, we don't completely understand. But I like how the entire film made it so that it was like you could actually see into it. You could, even though I've never experienced it, things made more sense.
Sure.
Because I've heard people talk about their experiences in the past, but
explained it kind of through layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly helping you understand.
Mm-hmm.
Which was
did you guys find out anything that you didn't know before? Anything like you went, oh damn, that was interesting. I never thought of that.
Well, like I said earlier, but I didn't know about the school kids thing.
Oh
Didn't
yeah,
know that. That was really cool, and the message being the same at everyone.
yeah,
That's why I brought it up, because that was one thing that stuck with me.
yeah, yeah. I think that and hear me when I say this to you. I have never been a guy for causes, or it's just not in me. It's just not in me. So when I hear about like environmentalists, I think that everybody should be concerned about their home. You wash your table, you wash your dishes. Why wouldn't you wash your world? I mean, we don't live on 30 planets. We live on one. So why wouldn't you want to take care of it? You know what I mean? So I think it's just a logical thing. It's not an emotional thing for me. It just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I understand the aspect of why people don't. At least I think I do. Because to me, all the people that, or most of the people that don't care, is because they have narcissistic tendencies. They only care about themselves and what's happening now. They don't care. Yeah, they don't care what's going to happen after they're dead and gone. They only
Well,
care
Kara,
about the luxury of life right now.
Kara, you are brilliant. You are brilliant. And let me tell you how brilliant you are. Because what you said is real. Remember, I'm this goofy guy who loves the nuances and the details, right? So watch this. Do you know why they're like that? Let me tell you why. Because their 3D paradigm is, this is it. I'm here for 70 years and I don't give a shit. It's over. I don't care what happens because I don't believe in heaven. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in an afterlife. I don't believe in anything. All that spiritual crap is crap. I believe in stocks and bonds and getting my money. And that's it. See, this is why, and by the way, you're so brilliant. Mwah. What happened is you answered my question, and this will come up in the next film, is this. When you realize there's more, that changes the way you look at things. All of a sudden you go, oh crap, this is not about 70 years. This is about all of this. This is about my entire, oh my God, wait, I'm still around? I affect everybody and everybody else. As soon as you start to understand that everybody's equal, everybody's together, it's all part
What
of
you
us,
do
everything
affects
else.
everyone.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
people try to get this thing, well, it doesn't affect my family. Well, guess what? If everybody's your family, then it affects everybody. If everybody's in your house, then it affects you. Oh my God, it really works on you. Not you. I mean, you as a people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thing that we are so blinded by is that we, in fact, can do things with impunity. And this actually reminds me of some of the things that I'm looking at right now. I know you guys are frustrated. It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to give Kara a tip about raising kids. I raised a bunch. I can tell you a tip. It'll make her feel, I guarantee she's going to smile when she comes back. So make sure you watch the screen. Okay? I'm telling you, I'm going to make her smile. But think about this, man. Brandon, there are these stories. Not these stories, but these literal accounts by military guys where these UFOs come up and they turn off the nuclear silos, right? They turn them off, man.
Yeah.
Okay, if you got the power to turn them off, you got the power to blow them up.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay, they didn't blow them up. Watch what they did. They come up, right? Guys are all jacked up, locked and loaded. They're ready to go. They see the lights. They call the commander. Oh man, this guy. Okay, lock everything down. Okay, these lights stop, and they turn off the silos one by one. What's going on? We can't detect anything. We don't know what's going on. Now watch. These lights, they don't hurt anybody. They don't take anybody. They don't zap anybody. They stay there. As if to say, by the way, it's us. That wasn't a short. That was us. And
Yeah.
then they kind of drift off. And then one by one, these silos come back on. These nuclear silos come back on. So people, watch, we think of it like this. those sons of guns, we got to shoot them out of the air. They're taking our biggest weapon, and we got to destroy them. Okay, hold on a second. What really happened? They like parents did this. They came up. They said, They turned off the match. They turned off the light. They said, no, don't do this. Follow our example. They didn't destroy them. They didn't blow up the plant. Now watch. And then they moved away, and everything came back as normal. Okay?
Yep.
Because here's the thing. Unless you teach your children, they'll keep acting up. They'll keep doing these things over and over again. You teach them not to touch the stove, not to talk to strangers, not to go outside by themselves, this sort of thing. Okay, so they show by example. By the way, Kara, I was telling Brandon that when you walked out, I said, I'm going to say something that's going to make you smile. I'm an old guy, so let me give you my best parenting tip. Here you go. You ready?
Yep.
Beat your kids every Wednesday. Now, let me tell you why. No. You beat the crap out of them. I'll tell you why. Number one, now listen to this. You're gonna be shaking your head yes in a second. Watch. When you were a little girl, did you do some stuff that your parents never caught you doing?
Of course.
Okay, so that catches that. That's a catch-all. So you get them for everything they did that you didn't catch them, and also, you don't have to go to Pilates on that week. You get your aerobics in. It's a great tip. So, and let's face it, it's a lot of fun. So,
That's
see, and no, isn't it terrible? I tell my sons all the time, I'm going to beat you with a stick. I just can't find the stick. I can't find the stick.
That's what I say all the time. Exactly, word for word. I'm going to beat you with a stick. Joking.
Beat you with a stick.
That's exactly what I say. That's funny.
See, Brandon, you owe me a beer, brother. I told you I was going to make her say yeah and laugh.
Oh,
okay. So this is where we are. This is where we are. Well, I talked a long time. It's son of a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It went by pretty fast.
My biggest thing is I have a hard time believing that with everything that is out there and all the weird things that have happened, that we're the only life form that's going to be able to make vehicles or planes or anything like that.
You mean the only place that has intelligent life?
Yeah. I really, really doubt it.
Yeah. How can it possibly be? It's absolutely impossible. The thoughts that we are the only intelligent. I mean, especially when you realize that there are, and you guys do, that there are intelligences and spirits and consciousness outside of us. Okay, well, son of a gun. I mean, right there, it says that we don't have our grasp around the whole elephant. There's more to this story. So even for people who have their doubts, if they're absolutely all buttoned up and they say no, I say, wow, that's such an arrogant thing. That's almost like saying, there are no people that live outside of the United States. Why? Well, I've never seen them. Well, that's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous argument, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're faced with. So tell me something. I know it's like an hour and 24 minutes, but just a few minutes. I'd like to ask you guys a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So you are with this paranormal team. Mm-hmm. And what is your main purpose? Teach me something.
Like purpose for being on a team?
Yeah. What does your team do? I mean, what do you guys specifically do?
He's got a list that kind of explains it on the website, but my best ability to explain it is helping people. The goal is always to help people. So whether it be like something's happening at a business or a personal residence or somebody feels like something's attached to them and individually, our goal is to help them. Like we went to a place Sunday and, you go in with proving, trying to debunk it first.
Sure.
Because not everything over half the stuff that we come across is actually not, you can debunk it. And so we went in there with reports of what was going on, and we brought our equipment, and the EMF was off the charts. So like they had leaking EMF out of their electricity from the outlets, from the light
we have a
switches.
device that measures the electric magnetic field, in places. And there were 4 different parts in this house that were literally redlining, like all the way to the top.
So if you ever look up what are the symptoms of
high
EMF, which is just the energy coming out of your the electricity. It can cause paranoia, it can cause dizziness, it can cause nausea, headaches, even if it's bad enough, delusional thoughts.
Yep.
So, and some people think that it's paranormal, but if you that's why we have the equipment we have, to see if it is, or to see if it could be environmental.
Okay. So after you go through the debunking part, then what happens?
Then
I suppose you have, say, this is not, EMF or whatever. Yeah.
So, example of a different place that actually did have something. We did the debunking. We figured out where the high EMF was, if it's just by the electrical boxes and the furnace and not a bunch of the outlets and stuff where, there's a problem. And then we use some of our equipment to try to catch voices, or to try to, contact. We also have a medium on the team that walks through to see if she can catch up on anything. You know what I mean?
See.
So we do a walkthrough first.
Okay.
Get a little bit of a grasp on what's going on and what we could pick up on. And then we schedule a real investigation if we find that there actually is something.
Okay. So let's suppose that I've called you guys. I need some help. You guys go through this thorough debunking thing, and you're like, hey, there's something cooking here. Something. Okay. So then what happens? What's you say there's a real, how can you help me? How can you help me?
Yep. So there's options depending. It's really situational. So every situation is so different, based on what's happening to them or to their home.
Sure.
So if it's negative, say just for instance, if it's negative energy, they're being touched, or something's being, things are being thrown, pushed, and negative, then we have a route to go that way. So, holy water, we've got sage, we've got Palo Santo. I probably said that wrong. Just like and we've got prayers that we do. But first we find out what the person that we're helping,
why it's negative.
Well, what their beliefs are, because it's, belief is important. So if they don't believe it's going to work because they're a different religion, or they believe something different, then it's not going to help them.
I would say one of the biggest things that we do when we first figure out that there is something there is we try to communicate to try to figure out why it's either negative or why it's still lingering. Is there a message that you want to get across?
Why, what do you need?
Yeah.
I see, because and it's interesting too, because once again, I'm listening to you very, very intently, because I'm an interviewer, right? This is what I do for a living on camera. And so it's interesting about how it's individualized.
Yeah.
It's individual spaces with a special energy. It's an individual person. And also their beliefs, in fact, play a part in it, and can also demonstrate itself to them in their own paradigm, their own archetypes.
Yep.
And so this goes back to something I was saying before about all of us being antennae, and each one of us is processing that frequency in our own paradigm. It's a fascinating thing. It's really, really fast. I thank you very much for sharing that with me. Have you ever bumped up against something that you went, oh my goodness, this is off the charts?
We have not actually had something too crazy.
Not yet.
That we didn't. We have a really weird story that happened to us, and we didn't actually have to handle it. Something else showed up and handled it for us.
Something else or somebody?
Yeah,
something.
It's a long story, but it was very cool. I doubt I'll ever experience something like that again.
Wow.
But that's probably the worst.
That's the only thing that really made us step back and go, whoa, no.
I see. And are you guys involved because you had experiences and then you got involved, or were you just interested in the topic, heard about this group and said, hey, we want to tag along, this is cool? What
No.
happened?
I think it's a combination of both.
Well, both interest and experiences. I've had a paranormal experiences since I was a kid.
I've had
I see.
experiences since I was a teenager.
Off
I
and on.
see.
Mine was more constant. But yeah, it's kind of a fun thing. It kind of relates to you were talking about, like, in your movie, in your session, like, you forget things that are traumatic. Your brain
Yeah.
tries to protect you. How
Yeah.
it turned, and I was talking to him about this after the movie, how your brain turned him into the character that wasn't
Yeah.
scary. You know what I
The
mean?
screen memory, yeah.
And so you do the regression therapy to try to come up with what you forgot or what your brain tried to band-aid for you.
Sure.
And it's the same thing with the paranormal and how they talk about how kids can see things, and after so long they lose that ability. Well, the more I look into it and learn about it, it's the fear, the scare.
Sure.
As they get scared, as they experience fear towards it, they block it off.
Sure.
So they lose their
Sure.
ability to see, after so long.
Well, you guys have little kids, and so you know this to be true. A little kid falls down, and if you go, the baby will start to cry. But if you go, oh, boom, ha 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 ha, the baby doesn't cry because we haven't taught it to fear that. And it's an interesting thing. By the way, as I mentioned, this Ray Hernandez guy, he's a brilliant guy, and he works with PhDs around the world about this whole consciousness thing and whatever. And if you ever have a chance to listen to him or talk to him, you really should, because he's a super, super smart guy. He could speak to some of these things and share with you some of the science behind it. It's fascinating. It really, really is. The idea is that everything, as we talked about earlier, everything is energy on this spectrum, and the slower the energy is, the more dense it becomes. That's us. That's why I'm dense. I'm very slow. And so, but the more advanced, and it's not necessarily, when I say advanced, I don't necessarily mean better. I just mean higher frequency. I mean, you didn't really have a choice being, you're born here. This is what you're doing. You know what I mean? They kind of were created there, or they're on their path wherever they are. It's just the next thing for them.
Yep.
And, but what we're doing is we're kind of like in this white noise. Our existence we live in this white noise that sometimes this voice comes out, or this image comes out, or this entity comes out, and we bump into them, and then we go, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
I like to think about, the spirit realm and our realm. It's literally like a curtain that divides it.
That's interesting.
And there are parts in the world that I believe
a visual for it,
Sure.
There are parts in the world that I believe that are so thin that it's just very easy to cross over to that other side and be able to contact them.
Sure.
Yeah, they talk about the veil and how, certain times of year, certain circumstances can thin it.
Yeah.
But I honestly, going back to your energy thing, I think it has a lot to do with energy as well. You look at people that are, the people that I know anyways, that are super negative, have made bad choices, always thinking the worst. Those are the people that I hear talking about how scared they are and that they have things following them, and that they, what I mean? It's like, well, you're bringing that to you.
You're drawing the negativity.
Whatever energy you put out is what's going to come towards you. You know what I mean?
Once again, Carrie, you are a genius. I'm going to tell you something. I'll leave you with this quick story. You guys are familiar with Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was talking to some people about that. And there have been all kinds of studies out there. I mean, there's a television show now, but there have been all kinds of studies. And it was very, very interesting, this aspect. The cats that went there, that were like SWAT team or special forces team, and they were all geared up. They were going to shoot the hell out of whatever came out. These are the guys that had the most terrifying experiences of everybody. The general people who were agnostic, didn't really understand, and just there to take measurements. They noticed things and things happened, but they weren't like these terrifying, crazy monsters and all this other stuff. And not only that, to your point, Kara, this is why I keep calling you brilliant. To your point, the scariest part of that was this phenomena followed those guys home.
Yep. Because they went in with the attitude of trying to challenge it, and I'm going to overtake you. I'm better.
That's one of the number one rules for our team is
we don't ever provoke.
No provoking.
Because if there is a pissed off spirit somewhere, and you walk in and you provoke it, or very rare, or if there is something other than a spirit, and if you provoke it, you could end up in really rough shape.
Well, you don't know how to handle it, especially if it's not a spirit.
Yep.
Like, besides your beliefs, you have nothing to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So why jump into a fight you don't know how to handle?
Yeah.
Anyways,
I know all about that. Yeah.
But all right, we went way past our time.
I'm so sorry. It's been great to talk to you guys. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh no! Thank you guys. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to be taking this film, and then I'm raising money right now, as I mentioned, to do the next film, and I'll send you some information when it starts to come about to share that. Maybe we can talk again. Just what you said. Just what you said.
Absolutely and awesome. At the same time, it did not work out.
It was perfect. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Have a good night.
Thanks for coming.
Sure. Peace. Bye.
It's been coming up like sun above. It's making us come together. Been making plans and joining hands. Come by me, stand and come together. When they know we've had enough, they'll try and call our bluff. But no, there's no stopping us. We're making a promise. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh. We're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. They say we're weak when we don't speak, but they don't see us come together. Behind closed doors, we choose love, not war. It's at our core when we come together. They will hear us loud and clear. We'll walk right through the fear. And then once we'll all appear and say, we're standing right here. Come on. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh. Yeah, we're starting up something. We're starting up something. Oh.